Alrighty, folks. Well, I'd like to say good morning as well as good afternoon, depending on your time zone. My name is Chris Erbacher. I'm the product specialist for VitalFit. And on behalf of myself and our team and our keynote speakers, we would like to thank you for your time today. Before I get into our fabulous keynote speakers, I would like to run through a few tutorial slides for the folks that aren't as familiar with the Zoom features of chat and Q&A. So if you look at the screen, the first slide here discusses the chat feature. So on your desktop, if you scroll through the screen, there will be some options that hover below, and you can click on chat. The chat box will open to your right, and you can type a message to everyone within that chat box. If you'd like to send a chat to a specific person, it allows you that option as well. For those using a mobile phone, while you're in the meeting, go ahead and tap on the screen and the controls will appear. You'll see the chat button, click on participants, and at the bottom chat, and you can type in your message and click send. And then you also have the option here to send to a specific person or the entire group. And incoming, oops, never mind. So desktop, incoming chat notification will be displayed as a number at the bottom of your screen, and you can click on participants and then chat. Sorry, that was belabored. Thank you, Paul. For raising your hand, if you also just hover, you'll see a raise your hand icon. You can choose the skin tone of your choice. And when you are done with the raise the hand, if you click on it again, it will lower it. And then if you'd like to share a reaction, because we're all excited, go ahead and hit thumbs up or clap. Mobile phone, tap raise your hand at the bottom of the screen. We will be notified to lower the hand when finished. It's a little bit different there because it's got the blue lower the hand. If you'd like to share a reaction, very similar, go ahead and click on which one you choose. Please feel free throughout the menu today to put in your questions. Greg and Cosi are wonderful at making sure we get to everybody. So we may not be able to answer at that specific moment, but if you're like me, you forget stuff, go ahead and type it in and we will get to that. We've got a few folks looking at that. So go ahead and type it in the Q&A and you can send this anonymously if you'd like. So today we are super psyched. We are going to discuss reaching your optimal mobility through liner choice, liner care, and hygiene. And our two keynote speakers today and facilitators are Cosi Belloso. Cosi has been a master's in PT for 17 years. And she has her own practice in Florida where she specializes in individuals with limb loss. So welcome, Cosi.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Greg Mannino has been in the prosthetic industry as long as I have, dare I say. It's been over 20 years. He has worked for and with manufacturers as a clinical specialist as well as a consultant on designing new products, which he does to this day. He is a certified prosthetist and been practicing over 10 years. And he is a 22-time medalist in the Olympics, the Paralympics in downhill alpine skiing. A mouthful. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for attending. Pleasure to be here. We talk about some cool things and how we can optimize people's outcomes daily. So that's what our goal is today. And thanks, we have Cosi on board here, who's an expert in limb loss, and she has more knowledge than most prosthetists in this country. So I'm so proud to work with this lady. So thank you for being here, Cosi. So
all right, that intro.
So I'm gonna turn it over to you two.
Okay. Well, I can take it. Today, what we're going to talk about a little bit, and I see the participants, and hang on, I'm going to look down a little bit. Sorry if I'm looking down at my camera. I just want to see who's on board here. Really what our goal today is talk about liner choice, liner hygiene, which are one of the most important things here to optimize your outcome daily. The worst thing to do is interference and maybe the prosthesis is working good, the liner feels good, I'm doing well, then I get some kind of skin issue or skin breakdown or hot spot. So we're going to talk about preventing that, and some of the generic liners out there and some of the latest technology where they're going with it. So, and I know Cosi's seen more liners probably than anybody out there. She's just a wealth of information, because you know what, a lot of prosthetists get caught in their what works for me and what the outcome, and they understand what the outcome is, and a lot of guys don't move from that. And I understand that whole kind of theory, but there's so many different options. So we talk about what your general life is, what your daily activities are, your impact levels, and then we select down the road or where we're going to actually fit on you. So, and I've got a whole different list of all the latest technologies here, but I like Cosi to throw some stuff in there on her thoughts, and everybody who's on here, Carla, Debbie, Michelle, Molly, I got to scroll down a little bit. Put some questions in, tell us what you're using. Let's talk about how your liners are working, or if you're not even wearing a liner. I'm an amputee as well, and I use suction fit, so I'm not a liner wearer, which is, you know, a little bit better for proprioception. It's a little tougher on your skin, which hindsight is taking care of your skin here. So, which again, I'm going to keep stressing is so important. So.
Absolutely. So guys, as Greg was saying, you know, as a physical therapist, probably the biggest thing I look at when someone first comes into my clinic is their skin, because that's where it all begins. After the skin, it's the fit of the socket. If you have good, healthy skin, a well-fitting socket, you can teach the person how to walk like a supermodel. If they're having problems with the skin and the socket doesn't fit well, you're dead in the water. So we're going to be talking to you a lot about the skin integrity, how you can keep your skin healthy, and then also how to start just asking questions like what Greg said. Just start having that conversation with your prosthetist and physical therapist about what's the best thing you can put on your skin, mainly your liner, before the socket goes on. So we're so thankful to the VitalFit. I know that for me, for the past 17 years, the only thing I could recommend to my patients in terms of skincare was over-the-counter drugstore type solutions. So like antiperspirants or, you know, just random moisturizers. And none of these products were meant specifically for people who are using a prosthesis, people who have diabetic skin, people who are in danger of losing a second limb. So with this Vital Skin product line, I was so excited when it came out, because this is exactly what it was made for. That is the whole reason for its existence. Is Vital Skin is meant to serve those who are working with prosthetic devices. It helps with preventing friction and shearing within the socket. It helps with the bacteria. It helps with the odor. It helps with the sweat, which right now in hot, sticky Florida, that's all we deal about right there. And it helps, you know, the prevention of all of these problems. Okay. So Greg and I are going to talk a little bit about healthy skin and just a couple of the tips and things that we recommend to our own patients. Sorry, I'm clicking back and forth between screens here.
Sorry if I've got barking dogs in the background.
You've got barking dogs.
Part of my house here. And I'm actually debating to take another Labrador that's in a rescue. So I know I'm maybe crazy, but you know, I've got 4, might as well have 5, right?
What's one more? It's just extra. For me, it's just extra laundry. I've got the 4 kids. So it's just extra laundry right there. So guys, on my show that I do on Wednesday night, I like to do a lot of Cosi polls, because I do like to hear a lot from the people who are listening. So you guys who are listening right now in the chat section, how many of you have had problems with your skin? How many of you have had blisters? How many of you have had rashes, like heat rashes, fungal rashes, yeast rashes? I don't know what that is, rash sitting on my leg. How many of you have had some flavor of this kind of problem? Go ahead and type it into that chat box just so we can start getting an idea.
Absolutely. Think about, you know, there's a couple of major forces on your skin, shear and rotation, and that's what a socket does to us. It doesn't matter if you're skin fit or wearing, you know, silicone or PPE or polyurethane. It's the shear, and that force can create rashes. It can just be micro tears, but type it in there and let's see what we see. Shear problems. I see Tara just put up shear.
Shear problem.
I'm trying to read too. Shear is a big one, you know, and you put a little bit of sweat involved in that, and a little bit of heat, you know, some activity. It just can translate to just skin breakdown. And that's what we're really trying to prevent. Like Cosi said, the VitalFit system is designed to keep your skin at its healthiest and your integrity at its highest. And again, we've never had a product like this. Again, Cosi mentioned that we would recommend bag balm. That was the big one back in the day. That was designed to put on cow's udders when you're milking them too much, which was kind of weird, but there was never anything out there. So there was all these kind of different, ideas. We'll try this or try that. But we have a system now. So for shear, it's one of the best things you can use, the liquid to powder. Not only does it reduce, perspiration, but it takes that friction away. And all you prosthetic wearers know, friction can create havoc really quickly, so as well as sweat. So
we've got Molly here who says rashes, blisters, had it all the first few years. I've learned tips and tricks from other amputees over the years. Carla says, of course, I've had all of the above, but at some point, every once in a while, but now it's under control. And it's a shame that most of you who have been dealing with these problems have had to kind of figure out, okay, how do I fix this problem by learning from other amputees? And this is something that ideally your clinical providers should be educating you from the beginning. I know that the minute my patient steps into my clinic, I don't care if they're a fresh amputee or if they've been an amputee for years, they get skincare 101 from me to make sure that if they don't know what they're doing, they can start on a good path. And if they've developed bad habits over the years, if they've gotten used to seeing calluses on their residual limbs, if they have a bunch of dry patches all over the place, if they're dealing with too much sweat, then that's one of the first problems I start to address to make sure it doesn't turn into something. Michelle says, I haven't yet. My problem is I am scent sensitive. Your products are good, but I don't like the smell. Can an unscented product be developed? That's something very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about just the daily skincare. And again, this is part of the skincare 101 that I give to my patients. And I know Greg's got a few pearls of wisdom here as well. Definitely, I recommend, especially in Florida, once every 24 hours, the limb needs to be bathed, showered, and the liner needs to be cleaned. And usually what I recommend to my patients is that they take the liner into the shower with them and that they clean it with the same soap that they're using on their body. So for me, again, I love the daily cleanser that the VitalFit puts together because it's very good for sensitive skin, kills the bacteria, and it also can work on the liner. So the same thing that you use on your liner that you use on your skin, you can also use on your liner because you know it's not going to produce any kind of reaction on your skin. And then the second thing I tell my patients is they have to rinse, rinse, rinse. And then when they think they're done, they have to rinse some more, that liner, to make sure that there's absolutely zero residue in that liner. Greg, do you want to add anything to that?
yeah, I agree 100%. Keeping it as clean as possible. If it's a daily hygiene, will keep your skin integrity at its maximum. Washing your socks too. You can use the daily cleanser to wash if you're wearing socks along with your liner, as throughout the day, if you're losing volume and you're adding socks, let's make sure we keep those clean. If you're a suction wearer like myself, even your pull sock needs to be washed occasionally. People overlook this one little thing, but you're introducing bacteria when you pull in, if you're a suction wearer, and people forget about that one little thing in the whole loop here that they need to keep clean as well. The daily moisturizer has antibacterial properties. So that is the most, I've kind of, and personally, I keep flipping back from daily moisture to liquid to powder, daily moisture, liquid to powder. And I find that both of them are giving me some optimum performance, scenarios. If I'm going hiking, I'll use the liquid to powder, but the daily moisturizer is killing any bacteria that's hiding in the socket or in the socks. And that's so important to keep your skin healthy. So, but like Cosi says, clean, clean, clean. And it's one thing as a process we didn't really talk too much about in the past years. I'm dating myself from, like Chris said, I've been involved in this forever, was we would fit the patient, choose the liner, line the prostheses, teach them how to use it, and then send them over to the PT or to Cosi to further their knowledge of how to, negotiate ramp stairs and stuff. But we just really left out the element of skincare. And it was something that you just assume patients would take care of, or it wasn't that important, because the last thing I want to do is say, hey, here's some bag balm if you get a rash, because it's just not, you know, and talk about funny smells. I'm sorry, I saw that Michelle said she's sensitive to some scents. Bag bomb's horrible. It was the worst smell. It's like, you know, was it petroleum or whatever's in there? I don't know, but it was never something that we really wanted to say, hey, go try this, you know. So again, we come back to this skincare line, the VitalFit line, that gives us you know, the option to keep it clean with their cleanser, daily moisture, liquid to powder, as well as the night moisturizer is, and I love what Chris always says, it's love in a bottle. It really is. I find myself putting the nightly moisturizer on my residual limb and then put it on my face too. So anything will help. But yeah, again, on a long answer with Cosi saying is, cleaning it daily is going to give you the best outcome. If you have the latest microprocessor knee or the latest running fit, whatever that may be, the interface in the socket is more important than all the stuff hanging under it. So.
No, and I have to add on to that, guys, you know, part of the skincare, and it's a lot for those of us when we like to take care of the skin on our face, the skin on the residual limb is now just as sensitive, just as in need of TLC as the skin on your face. And part of that is finding a healthy skin balance. So I'm not a dermatologist, but I do know from just dermatologists in my own personal life and from hearing from what my patients say, if your skin is balanced, it's going to be healthy. So for me as a PT, when I look at balance in my patient's skin, I look to see, do they have any dry cracks? Do they have flaking skin? Do they have any patches of eczema? Do they have too much sweat going on, too much oil in their skin? So one of the things I like about these products is it really does help bring a balance to the skin. You have to be consistent with using these products, but it gives you that balance. And actually, you know, going back to the bag balm, for example, I used to recommend bag balm to my patients as well. And one of the things I just didn't like about it was it wouldn't soak in all the way. You get the greasy spots. And I mean, guys, this is all we had to work with as clinicians for the past couple of decades. So we were doing the best we can in that regard. But now with the products that we have now, the Stay Moisturizer, your skin just sucks it up real nicely, and it's not, you don't have an oil slick on your skin. So in the past, I used to have to tell patients, okay, the night before you have to take your shower and then put the moisturizer on and let the whole night to let it soak in. And that's not the case with this particular product line, which is another huge reason why I like it, because it's just much more convenient that way. And like Greg said, the liquid to powder, for those of you who have too much sweat going on, is a really fantastic way to help start controlling that sweat. Greg, is there anything else you want to add? Because I know you've got a lot of.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think, like you said, with the bag balm and the previous stuff that was not specific for, you know, prosthetic use or socket use or liner use would stay on your skin. And what we all suffer from is having suspension hold throughout the day with sweat. And as soon as you introduce something that stays on the skin, that's kind of, I've heard people using Vaseline. The worst thing in the world is introducing that, because all of a sudden you've got suspension issue. Your prosthesis is going to come off easier. It's going to milk off you easier. This is where the VitalFit line absorbs in the skin. We don't have this oily substance left behind, which is so, you know, such a problem. I have people ask me all the time, oh, I heard about this. Oh, you know, I just use Vaseline. But then in the next breath, they're like, oh, you know, but my leg's always coming off. So that's a huge fine line and a huge inconvenience, I should say, as a prosthetic user. It will impact your activity. It'll impact your comfort. So I would say always we deter away from these petroleum-based products. Don't use them. Some of the materials in liners today, the silicone, the mineral oil, the PPE, there's a lot of different liners that are, it's okay. It's not going to hurt the material, but now that we have a specific, you know, skincare system, that's not going to affect these products. It's not going to really clog up your valves. That's another one. Anybody who is wearing like suction systems, you know, there was I won't say manufacturers. There's a couple of, you know, systems out there that are battery powered that create more, you know, suction on your residual limb. Those clog up real quick with petroleum-based, you know, products. And then all of a sudden you've got a suspension issue. So I can't say enough not to go in the direction of the old school. Let's come along with the latest product design here, and it'll you know, help your outcome every day. So that's what's important.
And then Molly here says, amen, Cosi, I preach the same thing to our patients. So guys,
Awesome.
we haven't beaten that dead horse enough.
Yeah, we're going to keep beating it though. Yeah, really.
It's going to end up in like with the antlers behind Greg. It starts with really, really good skincare, guys. So one other thing I kind of do want to add is, you know, all the different problems that can occur. And do you mind if I plug a little bit, Chris? Just a little tiny plug. So on my show in Cosi Talks, I had VitalFit, and Chris was on this particular show, and we talked about all the different hosts of very common problems between fungal infection, yeast infection, bacterial infection, things like heat rash, just the common blisters, common skin problems that amputees at some point or another will face in their lives wearing prosthesis. So you guys can catch this show again if you want to see it. But one of the things that we really hammered into that show is when you do, because at some point you will, no matter how careful you are, when you do present with one of these problems, especially for the first time, get thee to a clinician. So many of these fungal infections, bacterial infections, folliculitis, all these different skin problems can look very similar and they can present very similarly. A lot of them are all itchy, they're all irritant. They all have the red splotches, but it takes a clinician who can tell you, well, that splotch is not the same thing as that splotch, and to help you treat it properly, because you don't treat, for example, a fungal infection the same way you would treat a bacterial infection, and you can actually make it worse if you try to treat some of these things on your own without knowing what you're treating. So I thought I'd kind of throw that little plug in there. Has anybody had that problem? Anybody had these rashes that have appeared on their skin and they're not sure what it is? I'm curious to see if anybody's willing to fess up. Let's see, Tara says, my liner slides down anytime I use any kind of moisturizer and I'm at a wit's end. Suggestions?
Cool.
Greg, you want to take this one or you want me to?
Yeah, I think you should try the VitalFit daily moisturizer. I think a lot of moisturizers out there, and some of the specific moisturizers that we looked at that companies are putting out for prosthetics have a lot of silicone in them. And that silicone stays on your skin. It does not absorb, and the theory is, okay, it's gonna create less friction, but again, like we mentioned earlier, it makes your liner come off too, so it's a double-edged sword. So look at the ingredients. If it has any silicone base, ditch it. Let's go with something different, because that'll make your liner come right off. And that's a bigger problem than having friction. I'd rather have friction and have my legs stay on than have it slide off for no reason, really. So look at the ingredients there. Let's see, I just see another one. Molly popped up. Bad rash years ago during a very hot summer days. Had to see the dermatologist. Here's another one, like Cosi mentioned. You may have a fungal infection that, again, remember our sockets, if we don't keep them clean, harbor all kinds of little things. So we want to keep that clean, but I had a friend have the same issue, thinking at an athlete's foot, and sprayed antiperspirant on a fungal infection. It immediately inflamed it where he couldn't put the prosthesis on. And I think even in my life, I had that issue before, thinking, oh, what is that? I'll just a little antiperspirant on there, and it just makes it explode. So that's something you really want to be careful about. If this is really getting out of control, again, go see a dermatologist, talk to your prosthetist, talk to your PT. Again, like Cosi could probably identify more skin issues than the dermatologist, just because of her knowledge and how many patients she's worked with. So again, on that hot summer days, these little heat rashes could have been fungal infection that takes off in the environment of a hot, sweaty socket. Just imagine if you put your foot in a plastic bag all day. I think you said that on your show, Cosi, a couple weeks ago. I was watching, and that really gives a picture to me, is like this hot, moist environment. And then if you have a little bacteria, everything takes off. So
yep.
Back to, like liquid to powder, or even the daily moisturizer, they're antifungal, antibacterial. So if you just use the daily moisturizer, you're killing all that bacteria on your skin and in the socket, because that residual effect in the socket, it'll kill that too. So again, but you want to wash that out every single day, like Cosi says. So good point. But be careful. Don't just spray something on antiperspirant on something that looks like a rash thinking you've got a heat rash, because that 9 times out of 10 makes it worse.
And that's a general, you know what, Chris, I think we need to do that show. We need to redo the show of the common skin problems.
I think we could do a 3-part series because there was so much information and so well received. I mean, people really, really were enjoying and appreciating the information that was shared, and we had so much more to cover.
Yeah, I know. And I'm going to add one last thing to Tara's, and then I promise I'm going to stop talking. Tara, for you also, I know for me, whenever I get any kind of new skin product, I just like pile it on because I'm so excited about it. And I end up looking like an oil slick because I put too much of it on. And what I've learned is the better the quality of the product, the less you have to use. So in your case, and this has happened to me all the time, what I love again about this daily moisturizer is you don't need much, just a very thin layer on and right after your shower so it can just soak in nicely. And just those little tweaks here and there can make it better for when you put your liner on and it won't slide off. And making sure that everything is dry, guys. Clean and dry. Those are your 2 key words when you want to keep healthy skin, healthy environment, and knock out the bacteria. So again, rinsing out that liner super well and then making sure it's bone dry before you put it on. And also with your skin, if you put on that daily moisturizer, give it those few minutes to let your skin dry before you put everything on. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking.
No, perfect. Good point. Really good point. I just had a bilateral I've been working with the last few weeks, and she got a VitalFit care system and she put it on a little heavy. And I'm validating what you said. She was like, oh, it's almost like it's, I think I was, I guess what we came down to is she was really putting it on heavy because she was used to using
the cheap stuff.
I don't know what I forgot to ask, but again, I think she just was going a little bit heavy on it. So that being said, yeah, a little bit goes a long way. So, yeah. And when it comes to liquid powder, on that note, I always carry one of the little sample bottles in my hiking pack. So if I still start feeling a little bit of abrasion on like proximal brim line when I'm hiking up, or I'll just dab that on there. And in that scenario, if you're looking to break some friction on specific points, trim lines, that's typically where it happens. It's okay to leave it thick there because you're just basically taking that friction away. And if you keep applying it just on that, and for me, when I walk up hills, I get like a proximal anterior trim, issue there, especially if the hill gets higher, you start walking up a mountain. But just that it's okay to be a little more liberal there than it is all over your residual limb. So,
yep.
A good point. Good point.
Tara asked, how long should it take for the moisturizer to soak in? Tara, when I use the moisturizer on my body, and usually in less than 10 minutes, it's dry for me. And this is Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we take a break for an exciting giveaway?
Yeah.
So for our 4-part kit, which has all the items in it, generous portions, so you get a really good idea of how it works for you. It's at least a 2-week supply. And Paul's going to assist here. We're going to put a question on the screen, and the first person to put the answer to this question in the chat box is going to win the free starter kit.
We need the Jeopardy theme song.
Okay, it's.
I'm gonna get that on my phone and play it.
Did Tara get it?
Oh, I don't know. Did they?
I think Tara. She popped up first.
Oh, I don't know.
Tara got it?
Can't see. Oh, 4, yes. Tara did.
Congratulations, Tara. Whoop.
Tara.
All right.
So at the end of the show, folks, I'm going to have Paul put up the screen. It'll have my email address. Please take note of that, and I will send you, Tara, your free starter kit when we're all. Okay.
Congratulations, Tara. Come back on the next show, Tara, and let us know how it works for you. That's what's important. We love the feedback. I'm all about feedback and hearing the success stories. So please share with us.
And thanks, Molly, for sharing the sample, the starter kits in your office.
Okay.
And
yeah, okay.
feel free to call me if you're in need of more. I appreciate you spreading the love and the word that way.
Awesome.
Okay, so now Cosi and Greg are going to discuss a few topics relating to liners, things like the different types and how to choose the right one for you. Very interactive here, so please participate in anything on your mind. So I'll let them get started on some basic liner stuff, and we'll be organic from here. So thank you.
Okay. Can I start out, Cosi? Because I did a bunch of research because, you know, what I do and what I've been involved in, I typically see patients over the last 5 years or so already established. I'm taking them out and setting up, you know, high-end ski prosthetics or something. So I did a little bit of research just prior to the show. And the 3 things that came up that you want your suspension system to do was match your activity level and keep your limb in good health. Okay, that's 1. Ensure your comfort. Well, okay, that's 2. And provide security with every step. So again, I all this Googling and research, and I got a barking dog. Pardon me for him.
Agreeing with you.
But the biggest important thing is having good proprioception and a comfortable fit. And then the first one, I revert back to this, match your activity level and keep your limb in good health. And that's when it comes to skincare. And here, when I went out there on the wide, you know, Google and wide world of web, and these 3 things come out, which the first one is the most important. There are so many different liners out there that are available today, from shuttle locks to suction to vacuum to polyurethane gel, mineral oil gel. So I think they're all great. I don't think there's one that I could say is better than another. I do like the Iceros has an X liner now, which is kind of a cool thing. And I know you've seen that one, Cosi. It's relatively new, but you can take the ring off, your suction ring, and change the ring depending on your volume change through the day or your activity level. So when I first saw that, I go, somebody's got something here, because I'm not adding socks. I'm just taking that ring and changing it. So doing a little more research on that, because I personally haven't fit one, but I've seen them out there. I had one patient go, well, that ring moved a little bit on me, and that wasn't great. Okay, so I'm like, oh, that's good. What's your hydrostatic pressure in your socket? Oh, well, the liner's a little big. So again, you know, some things that aren't secure or vulcanized on the liner can move. I agree with that, but then maybe it was the next ring size. But I like that liner because it gives you 3 different ring sizes. So that's kind of cool. But I'm not saying that that's the best liner. What I'm saying is I think there's a lot of great liners today. It's what's best for you, depending on your residual limb condition, if you're bony, if your activity levels are through the roof, like the Andy Mays or the Jim Lagerstroms or these guys who run marathons. So that being said, you've got to really look at what your prosthetist is talking about, what your PT, which I'm gonna always go, PT's more important. She's more important than what I think.
I think
again, because one thing about when you talk to your PT, I think when we started the show, prosthetists go, we know what that works. I know what my outcome is. Why do I change it? And that is not the best thing in the world, I don't think. So, and that's from a prosthetist. So talk to your peers, talk to your prosthetist, talk to your PT. Your PT, I'm pointing in the right direction. She's on this. But that being said, again, there's some really neat therapies or technologies coming out there. They've got these nano carbon fiber clay embossed socket design they're coming out, so it wicks away perspiration. So that's kind of cool. That's still in testing phases. So there's exciting things in the future. But I think Cosi, you've got some information on like a Blatchford liner that I have not seen that yet. So can you talk about that? Because that's pretty important on the summer days. Because everybody I talk to, same complaint in the summer: sweat.
And it's guys, here's another one of my shameless plugs. It's no coincidence that I put the VitalFit program and the Blatchford liner program in the summertime shows, because that's what I hear so much from my patients. And this is why I like working with prosthetists like Greg, the ones who understand the importance of the team approach. Prosthetist builds the car, PT teaches you how to drive it. We have overlapping knowledge, but ultimately I can't function unless I have a good prosthetist working with me who's able to communicate and that we're able to talk to one another. So in my, I can talk to you until the cows come home about gait mechanics, how to analyze a person's gait pattern, how to treat a person's gait pattern. And I know just enough about prosthetics to get myself into trouble. So I know the basics and I know what my patient needs from a functional and a mobility standpoint. And then I take that information and I bring it to the prosthetist and say, hey, this is what the patient needs. what are our options? Because the prosthetists, they're going to know all the different kinds, especially the good ones like Greg, who stay up to date on the research and they don't just stay stuck on one. When it comes to liners, for me, I keep it simple. I just think of it in terms of 3 major categories of liners. And I know there's so much more, but these are the 3 big ones. You have your silicone liners, your gel liners, and your polyurethane. That's how I just kind of keep it simple in my mind to kind of organize my thoughts that way. When it comes to liners, I actually like the simple approach to start off with a simple one. Why? Because these can get really pricey, they can get really fancy, they can get really complicated. If your skin does well with a simple silicone liner,
Great.
Awesome, props for you, off you go. If it's not, because a lot of people are like, well, right off the bat, I want the fanciest custom-made polyurethane liner. You might not need it. And it's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources for you and a waste of time for you because it takes a lot of time for these things to be made.
That's right.
So it's really important to take a look at what is your function, you know. With your silicone liners, that's probably one of the most popular options that I see that people use. They're great, they're durable, they provide great support versus, for example, a gel liner. I kind of call that like the Cadillac liner. It's a bit of a more cushy ride. It's meant for someone who's not quite as high in activity level. It's got a little bit of mineral oil sometimes into that liner, so it's good for people who have dry skin. And then you have your polyurethane set of liners. These are the ones that I see a lot for my people who have burn grafts on their skin.
Sorry.
Polyurethane. They like polyurethane.
1 second.
Or the polyurethane liners. And these are meant, like I said, for people who have extremely sensitive skin, my below the knee amputees who have that bone that's just sticking right out with no padding on it. But again, a custom made liner, a bit more bells and whistles. So usually what I'll see is, okay, what is my patient's skin doing? You know, and if we're having problems with that silicone liner, my below the knee amputees, where they're constantly blistering up and we've troubleshooted with fit, we've troubleshooted with everything else, that tibia bone keeps knocking up and it has no padding on it, then I might look at the prosthetist and say, hey, can we think about a polyurethane liner? Because it helps get the pressure away. So what Greg was referring to with the Blatchford, and it's just like kind of my personal favorite right now because it's resolved so many problems for my patients, it's called the Silcare Breathe Liner. So there's only 1 or 2 on the market. And I think this one is the better quality one. It's a silicone liner and it has, if you look at it, it has laser perforations. So it looks like someone took a little pin and poked a bunch of little holes, but you know, much more fancy than that, much more high tech than that. So basically it's meant for the sweat to come out of the liner. The sweat just comes out and then it comes out the socket as well. So that solves a multitude of problems for many of my patients. I do a lot of runners. I have a lot of runners that I go on a run with myself. I will take them out on their training runs and we have to stop halfway, empty out their liner of sweat and then put it back on again. So I've had them use the liquid to powder lotion and the moisturizers, and then they put on this Blatchford liner, which allows the sweat just to kind of pour out. Huge difference. Huge difference. And I've had a couple of patients who say that they just put the liner on and they're just like, it just feels cooler. Like they can just tell from it. So it does have a couple of limitations. I will say that it's meant for mainly for residual limbs that have that nice conical shape. But I have been hearing actually one of my above the knee prosthetists, he doesn't have a nice conical shape, but he's going to start trying to use it because he's heard some people have been able to use it. But the textbook says nice conical shape. It does come with the pin lock and it also can be worn with a suction socket. But the important thing, guys, is again, everybody is different in their needs. So what works for the person sitting next to you that they're raving about may not be what works for you, even though it's a very good product. You need to find what is it that your skin needs, first of all. What are your functional needs? Like what Greg mentioned, you know, what is your activity level during your day? And you need to make sure that what you're wearing matches that activity level. So
Absolutely spot on, spot on. Going to reverse right back to skincare here. And if we use liquid powder daily, we're going to reduce our perspiration in the socket, which is going to make whatever you have on, that be a breathable Blatchford liner or a Isoros X, you're going to do better because like Cosi just mentioned, with her runners, the worst thing in the world is having to stop, dump that liner, dry out, try to redon, and it interrupts that training or that daily activity. So again, I'll say, really look at the skin, look at the skin care, use the liquid to powder, and then don't really worry about your liners so much. I mean, there's a ton of information on the web. You can Google yourself and look at how they describe the materials of liners, and you may go, hey, that's more that TPE is better for me because that sounds like me than the silicone. I've had patients out there too that they have reactions to silicone, so they cannot wear that. So they'll go with the mineral oil liners, or they'll go with the polypropylene. And the one thing about the 3 liners that Cosi said, they're kind of like high activity, moderate activity, low activity, and that's how they classify them from the manufacturer. Which I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. It's what fits you, what fits your anatomy, what's comfortable for you, and what's allowing you to do and get through everyday activities in relatively pain-free. So again, I think in the summertime, what we really experience, and the biggest complaint, and I talk to amputees all day long like Cosi, is perspiration. And skin breakdown is translated from bacteria 90% of the time, unless you got the marathoners like her who run. I always say Andy May because I don't know if anybody knows that name. The guy is an animal. He runs forever. I was going to call him this week and say, what are you doing for skincare, Andy? Because I just really wonder for these long distance guys, and he's a transtibial amputee. I think it gets much harder as you get into transfemoral amputees to run distances. But again, back to skin integrity, keeping your skin clean and healthy and lubricated and moisturized. That will make it, doesn't matter what liner you have, you're going to do better. So, and again, I got to keep apologizing for my hound dogs. They're just going crazy today. I don't know what it is. I forgot to give them their little chew bones prior to the podcast. I'll have that tonight. They'll be chewing things. So I thought 5-hour hikes yesterday would have done it, but it's obviously not. Again, I love looking at, I love doing research. Obviously, I'm looking down because I always go online and look at what the latest, greatest talk is. So one of the greatest things we have available today is the web, that you can go out as a patient and research what's out there, what's coming down the pipes. But don't let it change your daily activity saying, oh, I hear this composite nano clay liner is coming in 6 months. Don't wait. You don't want to interrupt your daily life today. Let's just wear what we have. Know that you're doing well. I think Cosi hit it on the head. You may have an amputee in your support group that's saying, this is the best thing I've ever had, but their condition may be very different. So know your own system, understand how it works, keep it clean. If you can get 2 liners, I think that's probably the most important thing, and extra socks, and keep those clean. Wash them daily, have a clean one, a spare one. I've had a lot of amputees, and sleeves. Probably the one thing we're missing out here is you have to have a sleeve too. And having extra sleeve in some of these systems is really important, especially if you're hiking or you punch a little hole in it, then you've got suspension issues if you're wearing suction. So having the spares is really important. I've always kind of been one to like keep it simple, less parts the better kind of theory, but having those spares and liners and suspension sleeves, if you're wearing that, if you're a transtibial, it's the most valuable thing in the world. So that and skincare, keep it clean. Sorry, I'm kind of rattling on here, Cosi, but I love watching her smile because I think she goes, I know Cosi's like, oh yeah, I've been telling my people this forever. So
going, yes, no, good, keep going. So Tara asks, I use Certain Dry at night, like every other night. Where does the moisturizer fit in, and will VitalFit help? I do not like having to use the Certain Dry. So the Certain Dry as an antiperspirant, that's what I used to have to recommend to my patients because that's all I had to offer them. And now the more that I think about it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I don't have to do that anymore. Again, just all the aluminum that's in these antiperspirants to prevent the sweat from happening. The fact that you have to put it on the night before to get it to soak in properly. And it didn't always work. I would tell my patients, I'd be like, okay, antiperspirant. And they'd come in the next day. They're like, nah, didn't work. And then there's also a lot of people who have sensitivities to these antiperspirants. So Tara, for you, I would say take that Certain Dry. You just use it for your armpits and that's it. That's all you're gonna use it for. With the VitalFit product, you're going to use the products in progression. So daily cleanser, and after you're out of the shower, pat it dry, and while it's just a touch moist, put on a thin layer of that day moisturizer, okay? Let that soak in, and then use the liquid to powder. Some people, I know Greg says he use the day moisturizer and the liquid to powder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some of my patients opt, and again, you'll try this out, Tara. Sometimes they'll use the day moisturizer on a day that it's not quite as hot and humid, and they'll skip the liquid to powder. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes on the more humid days, the person might decide to go from the daily cleanser and then apply the liquid to powder. The important thing is you need to be consistent with what you do, okay? And you have to give your skin time to adjust to this new product line. So for me, whenever I use any kind of product line, I know it takes me a week or two for my skin to kind of adjust to it. So just a little dab will do with the day moisturizer, then the liquid to powder lotion. And then at nighttime, this is also the important part, guys, the nighttime moisturizer. And Chris has a much better way of describing it than I do. So I'm gonna let her describe the nighttime moisturizer.
So the special thing about the nighttime moisturizer, the day and the liquid powder have the antibacterial, antifungal, anti-shear and friction. The night moisturizer is a product of many years of Paul Dean, our dermatologist, working on his primary line skin resource. So again, it's pure joy and love in a jar. It's got emollients, humectants. So it's actually going to heal your skin while you sleep. And it is luxurious. You can use it all over. Greg likes it on his face, which is awesome. Go for it. It's really going to help rejuvenate and increase the skin integrity while you're sleeping. And love your residual with the night moisturizer.
Good point. I think the biggest point what Chris just made, everyone, is it heals your skin at night. And if you've had any type of activity or just your daily activity, the last thing you should do is be applying that to your residual limb before bed, because you're healing that skin, you're giving it all that love, which I love what Chris says, to heal. So when in my personal stuff, when I use it every night, and then when I say when I use it every night, but I wake up, my skin's good. I hiked probably yesterday for 5 hours. I woke up this morning, my skin's good. But I use this system, and I think back to what Cosi's saying with the liquid to powder. Listen, you can put that on numerous times throughout the day. Let your skin adjust. It may take a week as you build up using it to get optimum perspiration protection. The certain dry is what we did forever too with patients. We just said, this is your only option. The people who didn't put it on at night, it didn't work for. Again, it clogs your pores. It's just not the best thing for your residual limb, but maybe on your heaviest day, if it's the marathon day, you may have to do something like that. But because everybody's different, the climates are different all over the world. If you're in Tucson, Arizona, or Miami, Florida, it's much different than Northern California or Montana. So that just being said, be smart, find what works for you. But these chemicals, we used to even have patients that would get the Duralock, which is a prescription grade antiperspirant, thinking that was good for reducing sweat. Okay, maybe you won't sweat, but you're probably, it would turn your skin gray, literally. So I try to get people away from that. We have a product line through the VitalFit line here that we can get away from some of these chemicals. So, but I think I got on Tara's, a long answer from what Cosi said on Tara's question. If you didn't use that at night, it just doesn't work. So, but yeah, liquid to powder, try it. I mean, if you're still perspiring, twice a day. I think, Chris, we had a patient, you called me on, a young boy that what was the outcome on that? I'm kind of curious. It was after a couple applications, he was probably
Yeah, he did well. So his mother was concerned because he wasn't going out and enjoying activities because his prostheses wasn't stable because he was sweating. And so he was applying it multiple times throughout the day and was able to get engaged with his friends and get out there. So great outcome on that.
Yeah, and that's a great story. We don't want to be impacted because we're an amputee from our daily activities. And in this boy's scenario, he was not wanting to do things because he's losing suction or the limbs coming off. So liquid powder solved it. That's the most important thing as a user, and everybody watching right now is we want to optimize our skin. Your prosthetists are great today. Your PTs are great today. There's all this inner structure, but you're driving the bus here. That's what I was talking to a bilateral friend of mine this week. It's you got to be in charge of your daily outcomes, and if they're interrupted, it's no fun. We all know that. So let's do the little things up front, and you're going to have a better day, week, life kind of theory. So.
Okay.
And then the other thing I want to add for, you know, the 80% of amputees that are dealing with diabetes, vascular issues, those issues are still, like I say, it didn't get amputated with your leg. You still have the diabetes, you still have those issues, which means taking care of your other limb becomes that much more important because unfortunately you're going to be at a higher risk for a second amputation. So again, what I love about these products, it can go everywhere. I myself am not an amputee, but I use the products on my skin because it really keeps the skin nice and healthy. So I always say I'm particularly looking at my diabetics who have that red, scaly or brawny skin at the bottom of their lower leg, that they're starting to show those skin changes. So this is a really great way to help keep that skin healthy and prevent any issues that could lead to a second amputation.
Huge point, huge point. And I overlooked that, but good. I'm glad you brought it up, Cosi, because it's even more important for that demographic of patient to really look and take care of residual limb and your sound side, because one little hotspot can get out of control so quickly, and we all know that can be life changing. So, good point. I like that one.
All right, guests, we've got our second giveaway. If you look to the chat box, Jamie has put the link to our homepage, VitalFitSR. If you wouldn't mind, please go there, and on the homepage, you're going to find out where our products are made. And the first person to tell us where that is in the chat box is going to win a fabulous starter kit.
Okay, go. 3, 1.
Greg, your ears must have been burning. I used you on my giveaway last week.
Did you? Oh, uh-oh.
I was like, who's the good looking guy who's doing the videos on the VitalFit?
Okay.
I missed that. Oh, thank you.
Michelle is the winner. Congratulations, Michelle. Woohoo!
No, USA.
Thank you so much. In the beautiful US of A. Appreciate that. And Michelle, please email me your address. Again, that'll be on the last slide tonight, or today, I'm sorry. Okay. So right now we are going to open it up for Q&A. I'm curious, just a few more, and then I actually have a 4-part giveaway, which I'm really excited about with the survey. For the folks with us today, how are things going with your liner? I'm curious what you all are in, if you don't mind me sharing.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Sharing.
Yeah, or type in what your main problem is with the liner you're wearing, or what your experience is. I think this is why we're doing this. We're all resources for each other here. Our disabled community, our PTs, we all talk, and we want to see that our outcomes be optimized. So not only with skincare, but that's why we do this. This is why I'm involved. I want to see people excel. So let's talk about Isoros liners. Okay, Molly, nice. I think the Isoros X is pretty cool. So that's good. Who else? Come on, someone.
While we're waiting for someone to type something in, I do want to mention something that has kind of popped up in the past couple of weeks. I have 1 or 2 prosthetists that I work with, excellent prosthetists, and they like to make their own liners.
Mm-hmm.
A little more cost effective for their patients, and it's something, you know, they can do in-house. And for the most part, they're, you know, nice, good silicone liners. But the problem comes sometimes when you have a patient who needs just the next step up.
Right.
Having to, you know, I myself call the prosthetist, and I also have to coach my patients sometimes in saying, look, it's okay to advocate for yourself. Your prosthetist is not going to hate you just because you say you don't necessarily think their liner is working for you, especially if you can bring them some of the research and say, look, this is a liner I've been reading about. These are the specs on the liner. Let's have that conversation. And guys, that's kind of one of those big things. Like, this is how you know you're with the right prosthetist or the right physical therapist, when they can put their preferences aside, because we all have our favorites. I know I have my favorites that I try to encourage my patients to do, but you should be able to bring this to your prosthetist, to your physical therapist and say, hey, this particular thing is not working out for me and we need to look for different options. So I just kind of thought I'd put that in there because I think sometimes patients get shy, or they feel like they don't want to hurt our feelings, or they don't think that they know enough. And for me, I'm like, you know your body better than we do. So if something is not working out, whether it's the liner, the socket, the foot, go ahead and speak up.
Yeah.
Huge point. Listen to Cosi, everybody, because you can Google search and see what's out there. Do your research. Like I keep saying, and I said it earlier, you're the one driving this bus or this human. You've got to be able to just have that relationship with your PT or your prosthetist to say, hey, what do you think? Maybe in these custom liners, like Cosi just mentioned, they're awesome. Little more labor intensive, but if you're bony, you have some prominence issue, then yeah, they're great. They're great. I think people who are offering that, fantastic. They're starting to listen to the patient. Is that for everybody? No, everybody's different. So remember that, and do your Google research. I love Google. I'm always on there. Doesn't matter what you're Googling, the answer's out there. So.
Yep.
And we've got a question from Dave. Dave is asking, well, he's stating, my liner causes redness. What can I do? And he has a Iceros Dermo liner.
Is it causing redness after activity, or is that just from pressure, you think, Dave? That's my two questions. Does it feel super tight? I don't know, see if a pop-up. I'm not getting Dave's pop-up here, but.
It was in the question and answer section.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the other. I just saw another. Michelle put up one. Let's see. Let me go back to the question and answer.
Dave says the redness is there all the time. Dave, are you new to wearing a prosthesis, or are you a long-term prosthetic user at this point?
I have a lot all the time. Well, when you bring that up, did it come up? I don't see it yet.
I'll comment a little bit while we're waiting for Dave to put in his answer. Sometimes folks, when my patients come to me, they might have very good, healthy skin. They get their prosthesis and they put it on for 5 or 6 hours the first few days and wonder why they're having problems. I put my patients on a very strict wearing schedule as I ease them into their skin getting used to it. So no matter how healthy your skin is, prior to your amputation, your skin was open to air. There was nothing sitting on your skin, even with the skinniest of jeans. There was nothing sitting on your skin for 10 to 12 hours a day, and your skin needs time to get used to that. So many times when I see someone coming in and they have redness all over the place, one of the things that I think about is, are they being too aggressive with their wearing schedule? In which case, to back it off and have them take regular skin breaks to allow the skin to breathe. One of the reasons that you might be having this problem, Dave. Let's see. So since January of this year, so Dave, in my opinion, you're still kind of a new user. And if you kind of jumped into wearing a prosthesis this quickly and put it on for a full time, your skin might just be irritated right now is one of the reasons. Another reason could be is that, I don't know what kind of a product, what kind of a line, it's the Iceros, right? The Dermo Iceros. Greg, please, you know more about this than I do. That's a silicone?
It is silicone, yeah.
Okay. So it could be that something in that silicone is just not agreeing with you.
Right.
Or it could be, so again, Dave, I'm giving you a bunch of things since you're not here in front of us where we can see what's going on with you. It could also be that you have a liner that's perhaps a touch big. So if it's causing some friction and shear, you might be getting some of that redness there. Greg, do you have any other troubleshooting ideas?
Well, you covered them. I think the silicone could be the issue. If you're sensitive, that could be. What's your daily activity too? Are you walking 5 miles a day? I'm curious on that too, because you may be super active at this point. Like Cosi said, you may have to, back off just a little bit. Another question I may have, is it is it super tight? Sometimes if they're constricted, they can create redness, especially when you release it and the skin goes back there, or the blood goes back to the residual limb. So there's a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but there's a few things it could be. So activity, look at that. Is it too tight? Is it too loose? Or you could be sensitive to silicone, and that's where you may fall into like a mineral oil if we identify that that's the issue too. So without me standing here looking at you, like Cosi mentioned, it's a little hard, but these are things you got to think about. And again, if you're walking 5 miles a day, that's why you're red. I'll say that. So it's just you're really, for being an amputee for 6-7 months now, that's a lot of work. So good job. Take care of your skin. That's what's important.
One thing I look at, for example, in my folks who have more fair complexions that they pink up really easily, is I like to see, okay, what happens when I take it off? If it's a uniform kind of redness, just kind of all over the place, and then after 10 minutes that pink is gone, then I'm just like, okay, it's because you have, fair skin, and maybe you just pink up a little bit, and what you need to do is just take it off throughout the day, let your skin breathe a little bit, especially after you've finished a high level activity, and then put it back on. If you have more olive skin like what I do, and you're still pinking up that way, it's time to see what's going on there. So kind of just looking at, okay, what can your complexion, is your complexion playing a role into this as well? So.
A good point. I was just reading Michelle's question here. She says hers a little bit thicker than she would like. I guess to answer Michelle's question is what liner, what's the thickness? Some of these liners are thicker than others. It's kind of, I like that. I don't have a favorite, but some are 8 millimeters at the bottom, and they wick out to 2.5 at the top. I think that could be it. The reason you may be in a thicker liner is your residual limb. Your tibia sticks out a little bit, it looks like. So it's probably why your process has you in a little thicker liner to give you more padding. And so for more distal comfort. So that's another one there. I'm reading that you use magnetics to keep your leg on. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's a typo.
Okay, didn't know that. It was like, I don't think I've heard of that, but okay.
Yeah, I'm like, is that a new suspension? I need to Google.
I'm gonna let Greg answer that one, because I don't know that. Michelle, another thing that occurs, especially with my more active patients, I love making my patients do squat challenges, and they love me for it. So sometimes what will happen is, especially with my below the knee, the prosthetist might take that trim line just a little bit down in the back without compromising stability. Sometimes it's just as simple as, while they're doing the squat activity, I just have them roll down their liner and their sock. Just roll it down over the edge of the socket while we're doing that particular activity, and then roll it back up again. That's usually where my patients are a little bit more annoyed with that roll in the back. Or if they're bicycling, same thing. We might just cheat a little bit and roll it down just for the bicycling action, and then roll it back up again. But it sounds like, yeah, what Greg just said, if your tibia is there and that's a hot spot and it's poking out a lot, then the priority kind of needs to be to protect that part so that you don't develop any redness or breakdown there.
Great.
And there is actually a magnetic puck at the bottom, the distal part of liners. We used to sell one at my last gig. I can't remember the manufacturer though. So again, a little dangerous knowledge here, but it's a magnet. I will.
Okay, I need to do some more research myself, because I haven't seen it.
Share that, and
A magnet in the socket and a magnet in the end of the liner. Well, that's cool. I think I like that better than a pin lock.
Maybe easier to don for sure. That's, I'll have to do some research. So I'm not real familiar with it. So
less
like
moving
that.
of the I think, versus a pin. So
that's kind of cool. We'll have to look at it. I think on Cosi's, real quick, to her thought, when you're doing these exercises, if you are getting pinching in the back, we're talking millimeters that could be adjusted on the socket. I'm working with a bilateral now, and it's millimeters we're working here can change it dramatically. So I would suggest what Cosi suggests: roll your liner down a little bit. If you're, especially like repetitive sports cycling, that's one of the toughest ones on the back of the knee. But if we got to take a millimeter off, it could be the game changer on comfort. So good points on Cosi's thinking there. I'm reading this up. There's no magnet in the socket. The magnet is in the end of the liner. Be afraid to get a pin lock. to line it up easy. Yeah, so I think that's a good point, Michelle. Pin locks can be a little issue to line up, and if you've got really good proprioception, that's not a big deal. But if that magnet seems like it makes it easier, I don't know. I got to do research because I'm frankly not up on the magnet suspension. So
Greg, I will share the
I know
magnet.
what to do.
I got you on that.
Good, thank you. Thank you. See, so one thing I've said from day one, as a prosthetist, you learn every single day. And when you quit learning and close your ears, and I just learned something today. So thank you. I got to say thank you, Michelle, because that's something I'm not up on. So.
Yep. So the day you stop learning is the day you hang up your gate belt.
Yep. Matter of fact.
All right, so Paul Sewell is going to put the link in the chat section for our survey for the folks, and I appreciate you so much today and your time. We're a little over, it's 10:06 or 12:06, depending on the time zone. So I've got a wonderful 4-part kit. So for the folks that participate in the survey, once you finish the survey, your name goes onto a list. I'm gonna draw one of those, and for a drawing of the fabulous 4-part kit. So please take a look at your chat box. You'll see a link from Paul Sewell. Click on that. And then we're going to tally your names. And while we're doing that, if somebody's really quick, we could do some more questions. But I'm just going to give folks a couple of minutes to put the survey in.
Okay.
And actually, Greg, if you can send me the information on that new ice Ross liner.
Okay. Yeah, it's right. I have it up right here. I'll email it to you. It's kind of cool. You know, I think it's neat that you can move the ring around and you can put the ring more proximal if you're reduced in volume from cycling, or you can set it more distal. It's kind of cool. And they've got like here, I'll pull it up. I had it up and now it's down, but
I like that.
I'll forward it over to you. I think it's neat. Yeah, take a look at it. I think you'll appreciate it.
For vacuum, or is it also for regular suction suspension?
Most of what I've understand is suction, but I don't see why it wouldn't work for vac, you know. Oh, it's on my next page. I got to apologize, everybody. My hounds have been crazy today. I figured they'd sleep the whole day and well, maybe one wants in and he's scratching at the door and crying. So I apologize on that.
I think this is where having 4 kids is a little easier. They're easier to bribe.
Yeah, these ones just want to lay on the couch. So here, yeah, there it is. Let's see. Yeah, I just pulled it up. So X Classic ring, X Grip ring, and the X Volume ring that comes with it. They're all extra, but I think I'll send it over. It's pretty unique, pretty interesting. Okay. All panelists. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody pop up. Well, while we're sitting here waiting, who's listening still, if you're all listening, I really got to tell you, the simplest thing with the VitalFit kit will change your life. And I met Chris and Skip, and I'm going to say this on every show. I met Chris and Skip back in September, and I was so interested in the product, and I've been using it since. And I sent some graphic pictures to Skip and Chris of torn up residual limb of my own from going too far, and how quickly I healed with this product line. And I'm not experiencing this issue, and it's been about 10 months. I'm just not getting the skin breakdown. So that's my product plug, and I'm a believer in this system, and it's like a game changer. I think I use that term, and I heard another person use game changer as a term, but it truly is amazing that just this one little thing you can do to make your outcome and your performance better every day. So I cannot keep stressing how important it is. So, and how much better it is. So
it's definitely for me. I remember like when I would work in, so I trained at Jackson Memorial in Miami in my early days, and people would come in with their skin just torn up. And I know my supervisor, he was an expert in working with amputees. He would just cringe a little bit because he would just see me like attack their skin and try to whatever drugstore moisturizer I had and just praying it didn't cause a reaction on my patient and just trying to get them. So I was like, oh, I wish we would have had this years ago.
It would have made it easier, right?
Yeah, now I can, with my eyes closed, I'm like, okay, let's give this a try, and off you go.
Awesome. That's so awesome. How are we doing, Chris?
Michelle got her survey in.
Yeah, I see that.
To the victor go the spoils.
Well, I'd like to say this is my first rodeo, but it's my second. And so I know you put the surveys in, and I will let the individual know who won because the emails are required. And of course, we will only use the email for the survey. So once I'm able to get that, I will send the winner the 4-part kit. Sorry, I cannot announce it, but I promise I will pick the first person that submitted. So,
Cool.
all right.
Awesome.
So Paul Sewell is going to go ahead and display our Facebook, Instagram, chat, share, send us some love. I want to thank everyone. A special thanks to Carla for assisting and making this possible. And we love the support group leaders for all of their support and everything that they do. Thank you, Cosi and Greg. Thank you for guests for spending the time with us today. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.